log in. Let me take it.
It says Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch are live now.
Nice.
So anyway, that's why they called him Rusty Skindu forever after. Oh man, thanks for bearing that. I know that took a while to tell, but you know.
So, just before the show, Eric said, "Hey, we're in a thunderstorm. We lost power before during a show, right?" And I said, "No, shut the hell up, Eric. We don't talk about that, Eric. We've never lost power before, Eric. We're not going to lose power today, Eric." Lost power.
So you jinxed us, what I'm hearing, Rocky.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think he jinxed us.
Yeah.
Damn you, Thor. So yes. Oh,
Bad idea.
I
That was an even
know.
worse
Oh,
idea.
Oh man.
me and Thor, old
This
pals.
was our final episode.
I would recommend everyone clear the building before the lightning strike hits.
So, indeed. Now I really need to drink for the stress that we are under. For,
Oh, relax.
I know. So anyway,
Shout out to the team here. These guys got us up and running very quickly, all things considered. So
yes.
thank you.
Thank you for tuning back in. I apologize that we were out. Now we're back. So hopefully power stays on.
Let the good times roll.
Indeed. Okay. Since Ian is still, do you have people's questions? You're good?
I do. I have some
Okay.
questions.
All right.
Lovely.
Great.
And thank you, Arctic Seawolf, for the question about
Yes.
wearing a kilt at work.
Indeed. Well, I think we answered. We were pretty much done
We
that
did.
anyway. Yeah.
We did. It was
Good.
a pretty good break.
You
Good.
guys did a good job.
Sweet.
You
Of
answered
course.
it.
All
Got
right.
it done.
Do we have Ian's camera? There he is. There he is
Uh,
down there. Looking so cute.
There's the Ian.
All right. Ian, what do we got?
Let's see. Let's go with a question from our old friend Kirk Kinnaman on Facebook. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on kilt hose with flashes, but with tennis shoes, rather than boots or dressier shoes?
Kilt hose with flashes and tennis shoes, or sneakers, as the kids call them, and the ninjas.
Are we talking like Chucks or Air Jordans or like black New Balances? I think that's the thing. I mean,
See, I don't make that much of a distinction.
oh, I do.
For me, any sneakers with kilt hose, I'm not feeling it.
Okay, but
Can't do
you bear with me on this one. We used to wear black sneakers downstairs
Yeah.
all the time. You know, regardless of what the rest of the outfit looked like, because being on the concrete floor all day, working in the warehouse and stuff, you wanted a comfy work shoe like that.
Still do. Still wear black sneakers myself.
Yeah, but Lucas and I would be wearing hose and flashes also.
A lot of times Lucas had combat boots.
Yes.
See, I don't know. To me,
Yes.
it's like a weird. Either it has to be a dressier shoe or a higher shoe, and then the hose and flashes, to my eye, look better. So combat boots, even though they're very casual, look better with hose than sneakers would.
I agree. Now, if I was doing that as a matter of survival, you know, in the wintertime in a warehouse concrete floor, I think if I were doing it in my own time, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, I'd either wear the kilt hose reached down, you know, not bother with the flashes, just ultra casual. But I usually default to combat boots anyway.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you know, I mean, depends on what you're doing. Context. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not gonna look great. But if you want to keep your lower legs warm, or if you want to look a little bit more dressed up, but you still need to be dealing with a situation where your feet are going to get tired, maybe. But colored shoes, I think, would look absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. It's I'm still in the camp of I probably wouldn't do any sneakers with it, but you know, gun to my head, what would I do? Okay, fine, black sneakers, fine with kilt hose if I have to. But you know, yeah, like bright red, you know, Air Jordans or shoes like the New Balance shoes with like, you know, stripes and stuff all over them and webbing and whatnots. Yeah,
The
no,
whatnots especially.
yeah, it's the whatnots that get me.
Can't stand those whatnots.
Yeah, the bits and bobs are another one that's horrible.
Especially the bobs.
Oh, the bits not so great. Bobs, right out. Indeed. So,
Thanks, Kirk.
yes, indeed.
Don't do it.
Cheers.
Come on. You know better. All right, my turn.
Yes.
All right. John Hawking asks us thoughts on alternative belts to those who don't like the big plate style buckles.
Okay.
I'm going to use a surplus Brit Sam Brown belt, just the belt, not the cross, the baldric part, as a kilt belt. And I guess he's saying, I don't care what you guys say, I'm going to do it anyway.
Fair.
I don't know. I guess he's asking, is this a solid choice or?
Yeah. Yes. Now, for me, I like the big belt buckle. It's a little chance to have a little bit of a bling to the outfit for me. I don't typically wear kilt pins, so this is my chance to show off a little bit of art in the around the belly. But if you tend towards the plainer look, like a plain dress sporran with no tassels, and you want just a very, very simple belt, a Sam Brown belt's a good choice. I know Mac has like a Ranger belt that he wears.
Has what they call a Ranger belt. It's a very wide belt that has two smaller buckles.
A strap and buckle, yeah.
Strap and buckle
I
arrangement.
like that
That's fine.
style.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that would be fine. I've seen a regular, like a wide, like 2.5 inch regular belt with what looks like a regular, metal rectangle with a little tang in the middle. One of those, like not quite, as large as like Santa would wear, but one of the larger belts. It can be a simpler belt with a regular buckle closure. It doesn't have to be a kilt belt.
Right.
I would say 97% of kilt wearers that are wearing a belt and buckle will wear, this type of belt and buckle, but it doesn't have to be. I would just make sure that it is a wider belt.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Is basically any wide belt that you think you'll like the look of, go for it. Would definitely, unless it's a casual kilt being worn lower, closer to the hips, because they're designed for that. Don't wear a skinny belt. Like a regular, what we call a jeans belt, is going to look proportionately odd with a traditional kilt worn up by the navel. So that would probably be just avoid that. Otherwise, yeah, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. And I would say, to that end, absolutely not a thin dress belt, like an inch dress belt.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, again, with a casual kilt, our casual kilt that we sell, you could get away with it because you're wearing it very casually and you're wearing it lower on the hips. But most people I know who buy our casual kilts at this point, they go with a traditional belt anyway.
Yeah.
They opt for the wider loops and they wear it in traditional fashion.
Yeah. Indeed.
Because, I don't know about you, but I like big buckles. I cannot lie. You other kilters can't deny something. I can't do the rest of the lyrics.
I'm trying to come up with words for itty bitty waist.
I need to sit down and think about it.
Guy walks in with a itty bitty. No, never mind. I'm stopping. Not getting sprung.
If you want us to come up with the rest of the lyrics for that song, let me know.
Yes, indeed. All right, Ian. Next question. Pretty please.
Sure. Let's go with a question from Colin McLaughlin over on YouTube. And I'm bringing this one up because it's gotten a lot of comments. He wants to know, how would you wear a sporran with a great kilt? Advice on that. And he has followed up because a lot of people were commenting on this. He said, let me rephrase. Advice on how to wear a sporran with no belt loops on that great kilt. So he has no belt loops, and that's his concern.
Well,
there's no
there
belt
are no
loops.
belt loops on
Yeah, exactly. So he's apparently struggling with the
no astall.
Is he come the no astall thing?
That's my guess, but I've not asked for pictures of his ass
yet.
Today.
So I think it's pretty simple.
Yeah,
actually.
I would say there's two ways to do it. One, you could either wear a sporran strap and kind of wear the sporran on that and try to make sure it's maybe here's actually what I'm doing right now. If you wear a sporran strap, maybe put that on and then put a belt over top of it so that the belt that's around your belly is holding the back of the sporran strap in place, and it kind of hangs down from the front of that.
Okay.
Yep. If you look at my sporran,
what you mean.
It's going underneath my belt.
That's
So,
crazy. What the hell are you doing?
I'm just off the chain.
Wow. Yeah, you are, because strap.
And I see what you did there. So that would be option A. Option B would be if you're wearing a Rob Roy sporran, like the pouch style sporran. They should have, a lot of them have, a wider slit on the back so that you can wear it either on a sporran strap or sporran chain, or you can wear it on the belt as a belt pouch. So,
because sporran is Gallic for purse, and it basically was a belt pouch, which is a survival from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance. And essentially, if you look at period sporrans, a lot of the time, not military sporrans, that they're the guys who really kind of got what we think of as a sporran now going. But if you look at civilian sporrans from the 17th century and such, there is a strap that comes up above the body of the pouch. I mean, if you look at medieval belt pouches or things you see people wearing at Ren Fair, it's basically that, and it was meant to be worn on the belt. You weren't wearing more than one belt typically in that era. So basically, you had a belt, and your pouch was slung on the belt along with everything else you were carrying. So you can either tackle it by having technology like he suggested, or a sporran which is designed to be worn on a belt on its own. A stopgap I suppose you could employ would be to use sporran hangers. This would be a very modern look, but you could use a sporran of any kind with sporran hangers, and then put those over your kilt belt, because that's what they're designed to do, and that would basically reduce the problem of having something going around the back completely, and you basically have a sporran that you could move to one side or the other. They did not always wear sporrans centered back then.
Yeah.
There's pictorial evidence of them wearing it wherever, off to the side, in the front, whatever was convenient, basically. So
whatever's most practical. Yeah.
So there's more than one way to do it. Experiment, and if you decide to invest in a Rob Roy sporran, we'd be honored if you consider ours. But there are a lot of artisans out there who make them, and you can look at people who market to reenactors or Ren Fair and stuff to find some really cool options if you want something that just has the loop coming out of the top to go over a regular belt.
Mm-hmm.
Shaggy dog a little bit, but that's what I would do.
Cool. Hope it helps.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Are we good tech-wise now, guys?
Woohoo!
Everything good? Everything kosher?
Nothing is going to go wrong anymore.
Okay.
That's what I'm knocking
Sing
on.
a song to Thor to honor him, to prevent the power from going out. Well, you start, Eric. We'll follow.
I just pour one out from a homie. Basically, Thor is a drinker.
Yeah.
If you want Thor to be your friend, just offer him a drink.
We need a sacrifice. Adam.
No.
All right.
Anyway.
Next show, we'll do a sacrifice.
Wait till after reviews.
Oh man. Okay. I have nothing to do with this. Okay, so
for legal reasons, we're not going to kill any employees.
Allegedly. The Plated Ones from YouTube asked, did the Victorians Braveheart, quote unquote, Highland wear? It seems like they made their own thing, and we lost the practicality and free-form nature of Highland wear that came before the Victorians. And I think he's basically using the term Braveheart to suggest that they just kind of make up something they thought looked good and looked right, the way the movie known as Braveheart did, to everyone's chagrin.
Yeah. Yes, no, and kind of. It was reinvented, shall we say, or reinvigorated in the 1810s, 1820s. So what existed before the Jacobite risings were more great kilts, and it was done a particular way. And then with the prescriptions, there was a period. Forget how many years was it? 40 years?
About 40 years.
Yeah, roughly 40 years, where it wasn't done. It was illegal to wear the Highland dress. Tartans weren't illegal, but wearing Highland dress was illegal. So it kind of fell out of fashion, and people just didn't do it, and there was no passed down here rules or conventions of here's how it's done, here's why it's done, that kind of thing. So when it came time for the King's visit in 1822, it was Sir Walter Scott and those of his peers, his ilk, kind of had to reinvent it and had to bring it forth again so that it wouldn't just get lost to the sands of time, to history. So they had to do something, and since there wasn't a thing to point to and say, this is how it was done, do it this way, they kind of had to fill in the gaps a bit. So I wouldn't say they were bravehearting it or making it up just to mock it for something to do, but they were making it up to some degree or filling in the gaps to make sure and ensure that it had a way forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I will quibble with the details a tiny bit.
Feel free.
But essentially, yeah, basically, we all know that the Victorians and people before them, honestly, also were guilty of passing all history that they encountered through their own cultural filters. We all do this; it's human nature, but they were particularly good at it. So yes, did they make things up to fill in the gaps to where they didn't know any better? Absolutely. Did they care that they were making it up? Not so much. But the thing is, a lot of the elements that they were using actually did predate that period. So, like the filibeg, the short kilt, the walking kilt, is an 18th century invention. It was a civilian invention as well as a military innovation. I'm not sure which came first. That's probably a chicken and egg thing to a degree. But we do know that at some point the British Army, pretty early on, realized, because the troops were complaining, that wearing a great kilt into combat and in marching formations was a major pain in the ass. So they went from the full great kilt to a walking kilt. So that was a kilt that people in the Regency period, which is technically the time period that we're talking about with Walter Scott, were familiar with. I think you do have some people who are trying to wear something like a great kilt, and that's probably where you have the invention of the fly plaid, because they were trying to get that look without having the cumbersomeness of a full great kilt. You do have you have pictures of guys wearing a great kilt even in the late 18th century. But they started to add things on to make it more fun. They basically turned it from practical clothing into an art form. And the result of that was something called the revival suit, the Highland revival suit. And that was the precursor of what we consider to be standard formal Highland dress now. And Rosie Wayne talks about that in her book. That's the bulk of what her book is about. It was happening before Scott, but it came to a head because of him and the royal visit in 1822. Because suddenly you had this occasion, you had a deadline. And it's like, well, I got to make this thing because I'm told as a clan chief or a high-ranking elite, I'm supposed to wear it to this ball that they're hosting, and they won't let me in if I'm not wearing the old garb of the Gaul. Okay, fine, but all my suits look like this. How am I going to make this work with this kilt thing? And so they started tinkering around with the tailoring and the shapes and the accessories and all that kind of stuff. And they took what the military preserved and what scraps of things had been preserved from the old times, and they made it artsy, for lack of a better word. So
now, he was talking, and I apologize, I was going back to pre-Victorian times. He was talking about Victorian. Did Victorians do it? Yeah, it's not a sliding scale, but this is what led to that. So there was Sir Walter Scott helped to invent it, or kind of came up again, filled in the gaps and that kind of thing. And then the Victorians, through the height of the tartan craze, kind of invented things and further filled in more gaps and just kind of played with it. And they
took that haggis and they ran with
it. They were developing the style. I mean, like what we think of today wasn't really codified for traditional Highland dress wasn't codified really until like the 1910s, 1920s is essentially when you think of a guy wearing a kilt to a formal function. That's generally the time frame people are thinking of, with a Prince Charlie jacket and vest and that kind of thing. Yeah. So before then, it was a little bit of a Wild West type scenario, where kind of a little bit of an anything goes, kind of a little bit more fashion-y driven, and then it kind of settled in a particular area. And I would say now, but it settled there for a while. So if we say it started settling there in, let's say, the 1890s through the 1930s, and it's sort of stuck, and now it's been that way until, even to some degree up until today, but now people are starting to play with it again.
I think people are playing with it more now, but I think you could say that period of time is when things started to ossify, as they say.
Petrified.
It's like, this is how it's supposed to be done if you are dressed properly. and it's now traditional, so we're not going to mess with it. But first of all, personal opinion, I don't think that if they Bravehearted it, in many ways they didn't Braveheart it in a bad way. Again, the trends that they decided to play with were already pre-existing in the late 18th century. And frankly, yeah, a gray kilt is a pain in the ass to wear, except in certain circumstances. Now, we have plenty of people who are wearing them casually now and having some fun with it, but I personally prefer a walking kilt like we have now. So in some ways, I think they made it more wearable for more people. Yeah, they gave us a full system, and they came to the realization in the process early on that the kilt was the main thing that you had to care about. You could integrate it into modern fashion, and there was nothing wrong with doing that, because it was a trickle-down thing with the elites who had the money to play with it downward. They said, well, this is what I think is fashionable. I want to wear the kilt with this, and we've had that ever since. If you look at other national dress from other countries, it looks like something out of the freaking Middle Ages or the Renaissance. It has not changed at all, because it's much more of a uniform, whereas kilts can be integrated with whatever the fashion is now. So they did us a favor. The biggest example, I think, of Bravehearting things is not the clothing itself. It's the tartans. Your favorite example. It's the Sobieski Stuarts.
Yeah.
They totally Bravehearted the hell out of it. They invented stuff which they said was medieval, which did not exist. So
Yeah, they just pulled it out of their ass.
Yeah.
They literally just made things up that didn't exist because there was a desire, there was a public hunger for tartans and for new tartans and for wanting to associate themselves, or not the Sobieskis, but individuals wanted to associate themselves with their own clan tartans. So they were hungry for it, and the Sobieskis were like, you want a Leslie tartan? Oh, okay, here you go. Here's Leslie. There you go. And, back to, the conspiracy theorists of the day, the mills kind of played a part in it. They were like, okay, well, somebody else designed this. This guy wants to buy it. Who am I to say no? And they start weaving it.
yeah.
So it all kind of feeds on itself. It's back to, my discussion with Rosie when I had my interview with her. It's this weird and beautiful confluence of consumer desire and history and business and it's all of it kind of swirled together,
Creativity.
and how it was created together and kind of moved forward.
Yeah.
So
So did they? Yeah. I don't think it was always a bad thing. They didn't as much as people think they did. The whole thing about the Victorians invented Scottish tradition is kind of a myth. It's there's truth to it, but it's not like people use that as a diss. Say like, oh, your traditions are just they were all invented in the 19th century. They're not really old. So like, well, that's not true. We have a video program note. Let me make a break here so we can add this. Good answer there, Rocky. Thanks. Hope that helped. Program note. We have a video that we did on the R. McKeon prints, which will be coming out very soon. Our videographer, producer, Adam, made it for us, and it is, if I may say so, very good. And we'll be publishing that pretty soon. So that addresses this very topic. And we also have a project on the Wallace sword, which is in the works, which kind of touches on this as well. So look for those coming in the next few weeks. And that's about all I'm going to say.
Yeah. No,
it's a good question.
Yeah, it is. And it all evolved. It has to evolve. And back to your point of, who, people that say like, oh, it was invented by the English or it was invented by the Victorians. No, it was pushed forward. It existed before that. There was questionable origins. There's misty origins. There's like, people don't know how it started necessarily. There's no like, aha, here's the book where somebody said this and Moses came down from the mount and said, let there be tartans. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen like that. It evolved over time, and it was, by each generation, by each, new people wearing the kilt, they kind of interpreted it and made it their own, and that's how things evolve and move forward. And without that, it would just go away, or just become a relic stuck in a period of time. So it needed to. I'm happy it did, and this is where we are now because of it.
Yeah. If it hadn't, you'd have people just wearing it for high formal occasions and parading in front of the National Unknown Soldier Tomb, and that's about it.
Or you would just have people dressed in great kilts reenacting, the 45 uprising.
Yeah, and nothing else.
Yeah, exactly. So cheers.
Woohoo!
Yeah. All right.
So endeth the lesson.
Exactly. Ian.
I like how you guys have turned Braveheart into a verb. That's fun.
We did.
He
They
did
did.
that.
Yeah.
I like
Fair
it.
enough.
I think it's
Yeah.
very handy. We shall use it again.
Yes.
So, speaking of projects that we've been doing, Philip Rains over on Facebook asked us very early in the broadcast. He wants to know, in regards to the Nordic Heritage tartan, do you know when or if you will do a PV option?
I knew somebody was going to ask that.
Yes. We do know. It will be revealed in
You
time.
have to consult the runes.
Exactly.
Yep.
Keep your eyes on this
Yep.
space.
Indeed. Yeah. Yes, we eventually will. Keep an eye open. For right now, we're keeping it in wool only. But at some point in the future, if you had to cast your runes, you would see that, yes, the seer has told us eventually it will be PV.
Would you know more?
Exactly.
Inside joke for the rune people out there. It's a per throw situation, if that makes any sense to you guys. We also had somebody who had asked me just this morning, actually, what the pleating options looked like. And they said, if you guys are going to wear it on the show, can you turn around and show us the pleating options? Like, that's going to be awkward as hell. No, but I do know that the kilt makers have discussed pleating options that they like or don't like with it. So if you want to talk about that, you could. He's going to show his butt. Yep. Okay.
For more, check out our OnlyFans.
Exactly. You got to subscribe for more. No, my kilt's plated to the set. I wanted, I've kind of been on a little bit of a set kick recently, due to the size of the set.
Set in your ways.
Now, due to the size of the set, holding up my over apron, leaving the under apron down, the set size is this white stripe to this white stripe. That's about 15 inches. Wow, he zoomed in right there. Why is there a crotch zoom cam for Rocky that Adam has at his fingertips? This is actually very disconcerting.
Computer enhance. Oh, wait, no. Go back.
Please, computer, enhance it.
Dehance.
I'm stopping all of my comments now. Since the set size is about 15 inches, we pleat it to, if you're gonna do it to the stripe, if I would to pleat to every other stripe, the pleat would be like 5 or 7 inches deep. So we can't do that. So pleating this kilt to the stripe would be white stripe, then a yellow stripe, then a white stripe, then yellow stripe. Alternatively, we can pleat it to every blue stripe within the black section. We've done that way as well. And then the 5-yard wool kilt is kind of some semblance of the set. It's a slightly shortened version of the set, but it still looks essentially like the set. So those are the basic ways to pleat it. If you send us an email to sales@usakilts.com, Ian will be happy to answer you personally. We actually, I think, have some pictures of the different ways of pleating it just because we have them internally for this one because we're doing so many kilts in it.
And some of this discussion is mirrored in the next upcoming episode of Loose Threads, which records when we actually had the bolt arrive and we all went, ah! And then the kilt makers hung out and looked at the tartan on the table and decided what pleating they thought looked best.
Yeah.
So.
It's a little bit of a sneak preview of how to look at how to pleat things or, looking at how our brains work while we're deciding how to pleat something. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Ian, I'll do another one from you since that was
It's a little bit product focusy.
Yes,
yeah.
product focusy.
Good, I am totally ready for that.
Good. Happy to hear you have one job that you're not ready for, Ian.
I'm ready for that.
I'm busy answering some customer service questions. So David Stancombe over on YouTube asked us, since you can't import seal skin, something we discussed in the last show, did you consider making sporns from kangaroo skin, which is extraordinarily tough? And we can certainly expand this to talk about other non-traditional kilt or sporn.
We know one.
furs.
I don't know if Bert would know anything about this or not, but I'm not sure who else we know who's in Australia who knows if anybody has ever made a sporn with kangaroo pelt.
I've seen one sporn that somebody used kangaroo tail for it, and it was a bit obscene, and I think probably on purpose.
The tail?
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah. But
No, but for serious. Though.
Yeah. Now there's sporn makers in Scotland have to source animal pelts just like anyone in that particular trade. So there's probably someone who at some point has had kangaroo pelt, there's probably, I know there was at least one sporran maker in Australia like 10, 15 years ago who contacted us. There's a sporran maker in South Australia, I know, who uses like springbok, which is an Australian animal, like similar-esque to like a gazelle zebra kind of thing.
Yeah.
I know it's like stripy kind of fur.
Yeah.
So there are like different, let's call them exotic
pelts.
furs or exotic pelts that you can make a sporran from. Now, most sporran makers don't have a whole lot of exotic furs, but it may be able to be done. It's just basically what they have access to. Just like any business, they want to be able to offer something that they have consistent access to in order to have a particular product line. There's nothing like having, a product that you have a bunch of people ask for and you don't have access to anymore. So can it be done? Yes. Where I would say is there are some furs that are better or worse for making sporrans from. So I know that like Highland stag, there's Highland stag in Scotland, but the fur is very hard wearing, but very thick and difficult to sew through. So they don't make many sporrans from that, and they don't like doing it that much. Versus like bovine, which has a leather of fur that is thinner and it's easy to shave and it looks nice when it's shaved down, and then a thinner layer of skin underneath it.
Okay.
So it depends on the individual animal whether it would be good or not.
So there's kind of a sweet spot. It's like a bell curve kind of a thing. Like there's something that it might look cool, but the process of doing it would just be too much of a pain in the ass.
Yes, and or how dense and hard the fur is. So, for instance, like Highland stag, it is a very, very dense fur and it's reasonably thick and the hide is tough. Versus like something like fox, which it is a poofy but it's not like super, super dense. So you can still sew through it. It's a bit, high off of the front of the sporran because of how poofy it is and because of the down that's underneath the top layer of hair.
Right.
But something,
undercoat.
Exactly. The undercoat is nice. It's thick, but it's soft versus something that's hard and wiry as well as dense.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get it. So there's no sporran makers who have standardized an exotic pelt line. Like, yes, we also do, if you have the money, we also do these special sporrans in this and this exotic pelt. It's more of a hey, can you do this? And then they have to make special arrangements.
Not the few in Scotland that I'm aware of. There's some artisanal sporran makers which will do like feather sporrans, like pheasant or whatever. I know Greg does. He gets the occasional rare one just to put make something and put it up on his Facebook page and have some like cool and different, but it's not something he always has ready access to. I forget the name of the company in South Australia that does, or South Africa that does sporrans, but they have springbok and a couple other ones.
So it wasn't Australia. I was about to say I thought springbok was an African animal.
Correct.
So,
if I said South Australian,
said
I
South
actually
Australia,
meant
you
South African.
Africa.
Correct.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense. I didn't want to contradict you.
No, I appreciate it. No, I'm thinking, but for kangaroo, that's obviously more Australian.
Right.
So there's probably, and I know there was a sporran maker in Australia at one point. I don't know if they're still viable. So it's probably possible, but I wouldn't say 100% like readily accessible, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best advice would be contact either a sporran maker or contact your favorite kilt company that has sporrans made in the UK or South Africa, and see what is available and if there are other alternatives to the normal sporran. If you want to do something a little crazy, it will probably cost you more because it's going to be a one-off, and or since they're not buying like if they're buying bovine or seal and they're buying 50, 60 pelts, that's easy and they're going to get a price on that. If they're buying one kangaroo pelt just for your sporran or one springbok or one insert odd animal here, then or non-traditional animal here for sporran making, then it will be more expensive. Yes.
Yep. Supply and demand.
Yeah, exactly. So hope that helps. All right, was that you or that was Ian?
That was Ian.
All right.
Should we go to our ambassador?
Sure.
segment?
Before we go to Eric's question, let's do our Kilt Ambassador of the Month.
Our ambassador, Jared Iyer, has worked as a plumbing foreman for Vision Mechanical in Reading, Pennsylvania for 22 years. As he puts it, he comes from a vast Celtic heritage with roots in Scotland, Ireland, Wales, and Britannia, to name a few places, and a dash of Sardinian so he can maintain a good tan. Some of his strongest ties are to County Carlow, Ireland, and the O'Neilan clan. Jared's passion, really you could say his way of life, is scouting. He's been in scouting since 1986, following very proudly in the footsteps of his great-grandfather and his uncles. In fact, Jared's family has been involved in the organization since about 1915. So, starting as a Cub Scout, Jared worked his way up through the entire program. He is currently a 30-year veteran status holder in the BSA. You'll notice the last item there is the coveted wood badge. That accomplishment allows the bearer to wear a special McLaren tartan neckerchief or even a McLaren tartan kilt as part of their uniform. Jared says his McLaren muted kilt is his absolute favorite because he worked so damn hard to earn it. Today, Jared spends most of his free time doing maintenance and improvement work for the Hawk Mountain Scout Reservation, which is near the famous Hawk Mountain Bird Sanctuary in Kempton, Pennsylvania. His son is, of course, also involved in scouting, so Jared is continuing to work very hard at many levels. He's basically done it all, from Weeblo's den leader to associate lodge advisor and beyond. He currently holds 5 different positions simultaneously in the organization. As he puts it, "My world revolves around service and serving the youth." And Jared is happy to get his hands dirty doing this work. At Hawk Mountain, he started with small jobs back in 2014. More recently, he spent the last 3 years of his free time replacing and repairing 6,000 feet of water main and 4,000 feet of pool piping, plus installing a brand new pump house for the properties on a 700-acre facility. Even during COVID, when things were shut down, Jared spent 6 weeks rebuilding the Scouts' dining hall kitchen. And this summer, you'll find him living on site to make sure everything is A-OK and working perfectly for the camping season. As for kilts, Jared says he has always had an interest in them, but he didn't really pull the trigger on his own until 2019. His collection now is up to 15 kilts. He says, "My heritage means everything to me. I try to incorporate it and kilting into most of what I do. I wear a kilt whenever and wherever I can, currently averaging about 3 days a week." So once in a while, Jared is not scouting, so you'll find him camping in state parks or attending Renaissance fairs and Celtic festivals. If you ever have a chance to meet him, take a little time to learn about what scouting can really do for a young man, and how service can help keep you young at heart. That's it.
Nice.
Ta-da!
So, yes. So, here's to him.
Sláinte, Jared.
Sláinte.
Funny story. I thought at first that one photo we had in there of him and the kid was his son, which was stupid of me. That's his grandson. I happened to, he's local enough that he was at the store shopping when I was leaving the one day, and he was like, "Hey, what's going?" So we had a talk in the parking lot, and he's like, "Yeah, that's my grandson." I'm like, "Good to know. I'm going to make sure we say that in the video." Because it just didn't occur to me. But yeah, Jared is an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And I do believe in the mission of what he's doing, and I can attest to the fact that scouting is a very positive thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, you do a lot of stuff for your sons in Scouts, correct?
Yeah, I'm not involved like these guys are.
No, not to that
at
level, but
all,
you do
not at
something.
all. But yeah, I mean, it's been good for him.
You help.
So
Yeah.
I try
Yeah, indeed.
a little bit.
Cool. No, like donating your time to any organization like that is a worthy cause. So I salute you as well as Jared.
Anything that teaches people life skills,
Yes.
I think. And
Indeed.
Jared and I were talking about the fact that the biggest change right now is now that scouting is going much more co-ed. You have a lot of female Boy Scouts, so just scouts.
Yeah.
And that's been a really good expansion
Infusion.
of the group. Yeah, and yeah, really, because it's like fresh blood, fresh ideas, and a lot of enthusiastic people coming in since
Nice.
that happened. So, yeah, it's
Good
cool.
stuff. Nice.
Right.
All right. So next, what are yours?
Okay. I really need to repaint this.
Yes.
Richard Whittington, friend of the shoe, said, "What sort of Scottish history books would you guys recommend? I've read Scotland, The Story of a Nation, and I'm now reading the New Edinburgh History of Scotland series. Where should I go next? And I honestly decided to look this up online because there's so many things to choose from. I wasn't sure what else to say, but
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite things you've read about Scotland?
I am not the history nerd that you are. I have like weird, very microcosm histories that I enjoy. I would enjoy like Dr. Rosie Wayne's book about, but it's more focused on tartan history, in that angle of it, not like battles and those kind of things. The only thing that I thought was, or thought that I had to add to this discussion would be something like looking more into biographies. So reading, the way I thought about it was, if you look at a book like the ones he mentioned there about the overarching history of Scotland, it's kind of like looking at a full photo of Where's Waldo, where you see like the whole thing. But if you get into, but you only get like little tastes of each person and like smaller mentions or smaller parts of a person's life of like how it impacted Scottish history. So if you're going to talk about, Sir Walter Scott, you may learn about him, from 1790 to 1825 or something like that, where it may miss certain things. However, if you get into some biographies of people, you can learn about their lives, and it kind of enriches your entire knowledge of the broader topic.
Right.
So using the Where's Waldo, analogy, if you look at a 2-page open book of Where's Waldo, and then you kind of focus in on a 4x4 section of it, there's a lot of little things going on in just that little section.
Whittle?
In the whittle itty bitty section, the
section?
whittle section. So that's kind of how I feel about biographies. If you look, really dig under the hood of particular people, and you understand how they fit into the larger picture, and then you understand why things were done before them, and then their own life experience and why they learned certain things, or maybe why they had certain opinions and things like that, and then how things were done after them, it gives it a more richer tapestry of the entire overall history. Does that make sense?
You done?
No. Yes.
Deep breath. Basically, the book that he mentioned, by the way, Scotland, Story of a Nation, is Magnus Magnusson, and that is, I would consider to be, I think most people agree, it is the current magna opus, best overall, overarching, this thick history of Scotland out there. Highly recommend. Definitely should do that. I've not read the Edinburgh series that Richard mentioned, so I'm going to assume, because I know Richard is a very serious scholar in this stuff, that it's a good selection. So if anybody else has input on that, go for it. At the low end, when I was a kid getting into things like this, not just a kid, when I was in college, I actually really found, as an entry point, I really loved the Osprey books. If you're familiar with those, the Men-at-Arms military series of books, where basically it was aimed at war gamers. Okay. And each one in the series basically focused on certain troops or certain events, battles or wars or whatever, but it was very, very quick, concise, very targeted information, because the idea was, this is what you need to know if you're going to play these guys in a war game situation, tabletop wargaming. Really cool, really fun, easy to digest, easy to have as a reference, a handy reference on your bookshelf, and just fun. So if you're new to this kind of thing, that's a great way to get started. You don't always have to go for the big expensive book first, although Ospreys can get pricey, I guess. But they're like comic books for history nerds. They're just really handy. I think that biographies absolutely is the way I would go, or a good history of a specific event. The first one that comes to mind, obviously, is Culloden. If you read a history of the 45, you're going to wind up having all that information on the outskirts of the events, which can be very telling. When I first read the Rob Roy, His Life and Times, which a lot of people dispute now, don't say it's as good of a biography. I still enjoyed it, and I learned a lot because he goes into, well, he was doing this. This is what was happening around him at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned more about the Highlander way of life from some of the sections of that book where they talk about his early youth and his upbringing. And, we don't know if he did this, but he probably spent his summers like this. If history is a river, then civilization is what happened on the banks. So I think social histories are important, and picking up those little tidbits that a good historian will weave into the narrative is crucial. So, to that end, I was going to mention, basically, I recommend going to a website called Goodreads. Very handy reference. It's like they'll have links to getting books on Amazon and other places, but the selections in any of their searches basically have reader ratings, so you can go through and see what books people really liked, and you're not getting anything that biased because it's not Amazon trying to sell you a book. It's basically So basically, of course, they got Magnus Magnusson right here at the top of the list. That's a classic one. The Highland Clearances by John Preble is one I've been meaning to pick up that I intend to get. How the Scots Invented the Modern World by Arthur Herman, highly regarded book. And then again, to lend weight to my I was arguing, basically a lot of these books are based on specific events. So you have the Clearances, you have Culloden, like I said, you have a story of the Glencoe Massacre, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, I'd recommend going that way. Pick a time period that just intrigues you and roll with it. And if you want a light touch, pick up something like an Osprey book. I would say that it's good to do that and then have something that's a big tome like the Magnusson book. And if you don't want to read the whole thing, if you're not a heavy reader, you don't want to dive into that, have it so you have it as a reference. And then when something you're like, that's interesting, I want to know more, or that doesn't sound right, you have another book to go to and reference. So an overarching history can be useful for that, or a way of getting a little extra information or getting your appetite whet about a specific thing.
One more that just popped in my mind as you were talking about that. Again, to use as a reference book, not necessarily read it cover to cover, but the Clan Encyclopedia. That's another one that I think St. Kilda put it out. I know Romilly Squire wrote it, and Lord Lyon had some input in it. But it is histories of each of the clans, so it gives you more data on any particular clan. So if you're reading the Magnus book, I forget the name. Yes, Magnusson. You already have, and he's mentioning Clan Gun. Great. Pull up Clan Gun and read about their the Viking influence within Clan Gun. So you can sort of. It's all about piecing things together. It's basically you're building a puzzle, and each book will add to your knowledge and add to the puzzle and put a few more pieces in. If it's a biography, you have a lot more pieces of little pieces for one individual person versus the sweeping history of Scotland type books. Yeah. But it all puts it more into context.
The other thing I like is I like books that are the history of a location. Like there's a book many years ago about London. It was basically the history of the city of London, and it treated the city as a character in a way. And I thought that was really good and that was more information I could possibly absorb, basically. And my father-in-law is right now reading one about St. Petersburg. Same idea, basically. There's so many people and so many events and so many factors of this city that it itself becomes a character and is fascinating. It's a great way to get a sense of how life evolved. I'm more interested in social history than I am in military or big event history. I like big event history, but social history is just more like satisfies my itch for time travel. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. So Richard already mentioned the best book, so I don't know what else to recommend to people other than Magnusson, but there you go.
No, I'm very similar to you in that I like seeing how things fit together. Your itch for time travel is my way of interlacing or interweaving all the different factoids. Yeah, absolutely.
Yup.
Cool. Cheers.
Cool.
If I could add a thing or two to that that are a little less academic than what you guys were talking about for the most part, there's a comic series called Saltier. It's a little hard to get in the U.S.
Oh, no. Really?
Yeah, it's about
Okay.
it's a superhero
Okay.
kind of a comic.
Yes.
It's like a Hulk-like character, but
Yes.
he's big and blue,
Because he's got the saltire on his chest.
and
Yes,
it's-
I know.
It kind of feels like old Celtic or old Nordic kind of mythology type storytelling. It's fun.
It's not academic.
No, not at all.
But you're right. There's sometimes you can pick up some interesting stuff
Yeah.
if whoever created the work actually gives a shit about
Yeah.
the reality of the subject matter. Like,
yeah, the
I'm a
artwork's
big
really
fan-
fun in that one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Flashman novels, which I'm sure some of you nerds out there have read. Brilliantly, very wittily written, but his note in the back of the book is like pages and pages and pages thick because it's a historical fiction book, but it's interwoven in actual events, and every other page there's another reference, like this is what was actually happening.
Yeah.
This is what the character Flashman is interpreting it this way. Most people say it's said this way, and it's great for an entertaining way to get some history into your system.
And
So I recommend that. Yeah.
and Rocky, I know you're a big fan of the genre. Do you have any recommendations for folks on like good bodice ripper type novels that involve men in kilts?
I may or may not have one based upon my life story.
Oh,
out soon.
really?
I said may or may not, so it's more likely may not.
Kirk writes under a pseudonym, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. The Kurt Kinnaman story.
Lady Kirkley. Between a rock and a hard Scot.
We've gone too far.
You started
I
it.
did start it, and I'm so sorry.
You started it. He played along. I'm just following a trend.
So we'll get to a question here. This one comes from TikTok. Hellsent Austin wants to know, any advice for parents trying to kilt a toddler for the Highland Games? It's weird that you're getting them involved in participating in the Highland Games so soon.
Just
but-
It's the toddler toss. You go up over the high, you stab them with the pitchfork, and you throw them up over the high bar. I've gone dark very fast, and I apologize.
It made me think of the Eddie Izzard babies on spikes gag.
So, we're
You're
going to hell.
So twisted.
Oh, I know. I love it. So getting kids kilted for the Highland Games.
A toddler specifically is
Toddler,
like
toddler.
2 to 4, let's say.
I would say a couple things. One, potentially be a little bit, they're kids, so people are going to be a little more forgiving with a few things. One, the tartan chosen. B, with the length of the kilt. So if you really, really want to have them in the same tartan that you are wearing, feel free, have at it. If your tartan is only available in wool, then you may want to at least you may want to understand that you may pay more money for a kid's kilt that they're going to grow out of. But
Yeah.
I would say pick a PV kilt. Make sure that whoever you order from, whether it's us or somebody else, that they are actually putting a hem in the bottom of the kilt so that you can drop the hem and it will grow with them. What we do is in kids' kilts, we automatically put a 2-inch hem in the bottom, so that way, because kids will outgrow the kilt height-wise before they do waist-wise. Other ways to prepare them for the Highland Games. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's true. I mean, we went straight to clothing, but you're right. They might mean. Was it just for kilting or clothing? I mean,
For trying to kilt a toddler.
kilting a toddler, not as opposed to.
I mean,
other
we could
preparations for Highland
wrap
Games.
in other things if it
Well, I mean,
feels relevant.
just from a
but-
parental standpoint, you know what to do. You just like hydrate, have snacks and a way to carry them around when they collapse.
Yeah.
But I would say beyond a made product like the kilts, I've seen some adorable things done with taking some fabric and making it look like a great kilt on the toddler, or making tartan trews. Find a plaid fabric and make them little pants with the little booties. That can be adorable looking. If you think of it in terms like, this is gonna sound crass, but if you make it in terms of thinking in terms of like a Halloween costume, because they're so young, just you can have some fun with it. Make a tunic, make a great kilt kind of a thing. It's easy. If you have any sewing skill, you can probably handle it. Make it simple, make it easy to get to the frickin' diaper, which would be in the case in favor, point in favor of doing a kilt, making a little sporran or purchasing, and we sell, and other people do sell like miniature sporrans for babies and stuff, and that can be fun. But I would say don't let the cost become a barrier. Think of it in a little bit more of a costumey way, so that you do not find it being an impediment to having a good time.
The only
toddler.
Yeah. The only
Don't
time
overthink
I would say to spend some money on it 2 times. One, if you have disposable income and you really, really want to, and you're a dad and you're super proud and you have money to burn and you just you want the kid dressed just like you, or if you're a kilt maker and you have a son and he's your only son and you want to make him in the same tartan, great, do it. In that case, have fun, do it. If not, then the other time I would spend money is if I have multiple kids. So I would
I can see that.
I would get a kilt for my my 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, my 4-year-old, and then knowing that the 6-month-old, 12-month-old is going to eventually age or size into it. And if you're planning on having a bigger family, then you can pass down from one to the next to the next to the next. And also, if you look at it as an investment, if you've worn kilts for a long time and you've had your dad's kilt passed down to you, this is going to be baby's first kilt, and he'll be able to pass it down to his son or his daughter or whatever. If you think of it as an investment in the future of the family and kind of a little bit of an heirloom or artifact that you want to make part of your family story, sure, have at it.
Plan to me downs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I could see that. I was imagining like a young couple with their first kid, more than like, yes, the clan begins here. We must build the livery of the clan.
But how many festivals have we gone to where it's like it's like Mama Duck and Baby Ducks,
Yeah, no, it's
all
it'd be
following
cute.
behind. Yeah,
Just considering the damage that a toddler can do to anything you put them in, I lean more towards the easy care, easily dispose of if you have to kind of situation.
yeah, I'd say machine washable.
Now, if you have a less common family tartan and you want them in that, then that would lend more to thinking the way you're thinking. If you're a McLeod or a McDonald, you can probably find the tartan on a lot of cheap stuff that you can just make something for the kid that if they destroy it,
It's
no
not the
harm,
end of the world.
no foul.
Yep, or minimal harm, minimal foul.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Hope that helps.
Sure. Just don't paint them blue.
Yeah.
Don't do the whole
Yeah,
Braveheart
don't do
thing.
that. Yeah, they're not pics.
Keep it classy.
Exactly.
Classy. All right. Let's see. Orkinus on, or
Easy for you to say.
Orkinus Undine. I think this is that Roman guy. I don't know. Somebody on YouTube, okay? Said, my Nordic Heritage maxi kilt arrived, and I love it. Any thoughts on kilt pin styles for the Nordic Heritage tartan?
Okay.
So glad you like it. Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you for buying it. So Nordic Heritage kilt, the ones we have on here. What kilt pins would we wear with it? If I am of Nordic ancestry, I could think of 2 or 3 new one. So 2 that I could think of that exist are we have our Fenrir kilt pin, which is very similar to the belt buckle that I have on here, made by our friend Doug, who is a Nordic Celtic artist. That would be a great one. We also have a Mjolnir kilt pin. So either of those would be very, very good. And the Mjolnir kilt pin that we have has the Mjolnir on it with a Viking sword. So it's actually, it's meant to be fully. It's not a broadsword; it's a Viking sword.
It's vaguely tea cozy.
Yeah.
Type.
And the third one that I would say off the top of my head would be maybe a Viking style axe that may be coming out very soon, maybe from your favorite kilt makers. But
Wowsy! Wow!
I would know nothing about that coming out soon.
Watch this space.
Yes, indeed. Any you could think of?
Given that this person, I was gonna think outside the box a tiny bit. Just general advice, since this person ordered a maxi, I'll point out that with a maxi kilt, which is a product that we have for the ladies, you don't have to limit yourself to a kilt pin. You could wear something that has a different shape, or is a brooch. The trick is you basically wear it higher on the skirt, or, as I put it to just Lance the other day, he had a roundish thing that he was using as a kilt pin. I said, that'll look better if you wear it higher up. The Victorians had a period of time where they had round, small medallion-like, more like brooch-like kilt pins, and they wore them up closer to the middle of the apron, like about the thigh length. So with a maxi kilt, you're going to be playing around with different placements in height, altitude, with a kilt pin anyway. While you're at it, you can consider other non-kilt pin shaped shapes. It doesn't have to be a linear, long shape the way those kilt pins are. I believe in, if I remember the original form of this question, she had mentioned that she had antler.
Okay.
And I think the antler is always a good option,
Especially with the marled yarns, kind of the earthy feel of this one. That would be a very good option. I agree.
You could go with a brooch. If you're into the Nordic stuff, there's lots of round designs on there that have like the ravens, or I saw
long ship.
Yeah, a long ship is a good shape. I saw a pendant I wanted to get recently that was basically supposed to be Hela's face, which looked pretty badass. That could be fun. I would say anything goes. Just avoid things which are very obviously national symbols of a strictly Celtic, strictly Gallic culture. So don't do a it's four-leaf. Don't do a shamrock. Don't do a thistle. Don't do a Highland coup. They don't exactly scream Viking. They say Scottish or they say Irish. But other than that, anything that floats your boat is going to be fine. Does that make sense?
Yes, I would say if they're specifically looking for a Nordic kilt pin to have a full theme for the outfit and to go with the tartan itself, then yes. If you're trying to do I want to, give a nod to my my clan gun or clan MacDonald or whatever, as well as my Nordic ancestry. So I'm wearing a Nordic heritage tartan, and here's my clan kilt pin or my thistle kilt pin from my Scottish side. If that is their aim, then I don't think it's a bad thing from an aspect of it's not a specific, you're not crossing two streams
I'd say
horribly.
If that was where they were coming from, I don't think they would have asked the question.
Yeah, fair.
So let's run down some common Norse symbols that are fun to play with. Thor's hammer. It's, an obvious one. That's the most common one. Celtic / Nordic knotwork. You can find jewelry and brooches that are basically in one of the different knotwork designs. Like if you want something more delicate, go for the later period yelling style dragons and things. Think like stave church designs. Very elegant. There's all the other mythological symbols. Like I don't recommend wearing a Volknot, but the ravens are very common. Nordic faces are very common, like the face off of like the Gundestrup cauldron. That's different. Never mind. Strike that from the record. That's the wrong one. There's the Oseberg ship burial. That's what I was thinking about. There's like Viking face designs based on art that came off of that. Very popular. Axes, like you said.
Yes.
Very popular. What else is cool?
Viking swords would be good.
Yeah, but an antler in jewelry as opposed to an antler like a piece of antler is emblematic of Frey. That's another popular Nordic one. Amber, any piece of jewelry that has amber in it would be a really solid choice. I actually have also something I have on my pouch for my Viking kit is a piece of stone, which was a knife sharpening stone. I can't remember the name of it. It's kind of like jasper, but it was a very common stone from Scandinavia. It might have been a jasper. And I basically have it as for sharpening a knife. But any piece of jewelry that's made out of that is cool and very appropriate. So yeah, I would look at Nordic jewelry in general and then see what floats your boat.
And find something size appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, that was you.
Yeah, kind of shaggy dog that one. Sorry,
it's all good. Ian, well, I think we're gonna, since we did have a little bit of a power outage, I think we'll probably end up going over 5. So, Ian, what do we got next?
Forgot.
Yeah, I'll get into a question here. First, a couple shout-outs. Shout out to all the people who are watching us live from Grandfather Mountain Games.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
wow.
We've had several comments about like that, but in particular recently from Scott Morris, who's with down there representing Clan McFarlane.
Nice.
How's the
Also-
weather?
I don't
Hopefully
know.
not
I mean,
thunderstorming.
hope you guys are having a good weekend.
Yeah.
And also shout out to Kirk Kinnaman, who must have been only half paying attention when we brought him up last, and has just commented, "Wait, what?" That's what I was almost losing my
So he's
cool
only
here
just now
over
realizing he's
seeing
a
that
romance novel author.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my long flowing hair on the cover. Yes. I actually want to see that mocked up at some point.
Oh God.
We already kind of got that with the goth image Eric put together last month.
Fair.
What? What did I do?
You did we did that photo shoot.
Oh, with the hair.
with all the
Yes.
goth guys.
Yes.
Yep. Uh-huh.
All right. What do we got, Ian?
So let's go with a question from another friend of the show, David Barr, a local, but he is chiming in from Facebook. He says, "What are Rocky's thoughts about having the KNC group march in the showing of the Tartans Parade at the Celtic Classic? I know he and the staff will be very busy, but I think enough people from the group will be there. He does have the banner already made."
Go ahead.
Sure. Here you go. Here's the banner.
We will be way too busy to
Yeah.
participate, I'm afraid. Maybe. You know, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Why would I? It's not my group. It's a groupthink thing.
It depends on when the showing of the Tartans is and when
Yeah.
our live show is.
That's true.
Because we're gonna be there at Celtic Classic doing another live Q&A just like this. Well, live there, not live on the interwebs.
Yeah.
We'll record it and show you later. But we're gonna use our KNC banner as the backdrop. So for that reason, no. But outside of that, sure. If you wanted to
I
march.
think he's saying that he has made a banner of the tartan. The way a lot of clans make. A
Yes,
carrying
but they
banner like
still
this.
walk with a
Sometimes.
yeah
I don't know.
with a regular parade tartan banner.
Nobody needs any blessing from anybody in this building to do anything for Kilts and Culture. It's an independent group. You got the ball rolling, but it's its own thing. So if you want to do it, be my guest.
Yeah.
I would just say
With my blessing.
go through all the proper steps and forms to get involved, and I would recommend doing what Rocky did for the New York City trip and make a separate Facebook group. Organize it, way, to a T, well in advance of the event. So, maybe build a separate Facebook group saying, hey, anybody who wants to attend Celtic Classic and march in the Tartan Parade or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
sign up. So
You said that, and I pictured Dave Barr in his full tartan outfit, like hiding at the side of the road, and it just like jumps with like 20 other people into the middle of the parade and starts acting like he's marching down the middle. So yeah, don't do
Guerrilla.
that. Yeah,
Guerrilla.
no guerrilla joining of the parade.
it's like a flash mob. It's a Kilts and Culture flash mob. All of a sudden, all these people in Kilts and Culture kilts come out from everywhere. Ah! Each one with a bottle of whiskey. Now that's a flash mob I could get behind, actually.
Fair, yes. Any flash mob that involves whiskey is what I can get behind. Indeed.
Kilted flash mob. There you go. That's the theme for this year.
I don't know if I want to say kilted flash in the same sentence, but
You
yes.
hyphenate mob. Does that
Yeah.
help? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's fantastic. Anytime anybody from KNC wants to do social stuff.
Yeah.
So the Kilted Rabble Rousers. I remember at one point Robert Hughes had expressed to me that there was a concern that people thought it was an exclusive club or something. I was like, no, it's not. It's just people who are on the KNC group who just want to go and hang out together and party together. So just say you want to do it, or do one in your area. Just have fun. That's the whole point. But I would say, as for Celtic Classic, plan it now, because hotels and stuff are and driving can be a
Yeah.
nightmare
Yep.
because it's right in the center of town. So,
Yes.
plan accordingly.
And no, it is not an exclusive club.
No.
And to quote the great Groucho Marx, I would never belong to a club that would have me as a member. So, I guess I'm not in KNC then, even though I'm the admin. I don't know.
I don't know what you are. I don't know what you are.
Yeah, I lost all steam there. Okay. Anyway,
Fun fact before we move on, though.
Sure.
There is a good collective noun for a kilted mob. It's called a rabble, of course.
Yes.
Ah.
We do call it the rabble. Yes. A rabble is a group of kilted individuals, not necessarily a mob, so to speak, but a group of kilted men and women.
Yup. Okay. You just have one about kilt pens. I'm going to do this one.
Okay.
David Nyer. My apologies.
Nyer.
David Nyer. Oh, you know him?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you answer this one?
Yeah, Ian.
Yeah, Ian. What did you do with Mac anyway? Where is he?
He's commenting a bunch.
Okay.
Apparently needs to get back to work.
Oh. David says, any thoughts on why the kilt is typically only worn for special occasions in Scotland these days? When did it evolve from a more regular wear garment to its current status? So why do some people keep their kilts in the closet, especially people in Scotland?
So he's pointing something out that is true. In Scotland, kilts are not daily wear. They are worn, generally speaking, for fancy type events, weddings, funerals, balls, things like that. So when did it stop being something you wear every day? My guess would be, if I'm traveling back in time, would be essentially the prescriptions probably had the biggest single effect on it. So 1700s, after the uprising, and the government, the British government, said, nope, not going to wear that anymore, because it was a symbol of rebellion, so to speak. That was probably the time where it had the least wearing of it forced. Now, you could, if you wore a kilt, or you could join the military to wear a kilt, because that was still allowed.
Yeah, that's my one reason for joining the British Army in the 17th
Yes.
or
Well,
18th century.
it was kind of it's a weird evolution where the British military kind of adopted and usurped the dress of the enemy, so to speak, air quotes enemy, to be able to co-opt it and be like, okay, now it's just part of us. And after the prescriptions, were ended, it didn't have the same thing. It never became daily wear again. So the biggest event or push for it to become a thing again were, Sir Walter Scott and his peers, were those saying, okay, now here's what we're going to do with it, and trying to push it forward, not letting it naturally evolve, but actively saying, no, we need to do this, we need to preserve it, we need to go forward with it. And my gut says, and this, again, me, just one man's opinion, would say that had an effect on it being dressy, because it was done for a formal dress event. It was done for the king coming to Edinburgh in 1822. And it was kind of an expensive thing and a dressy thing, and it kind of trickled down over time. But when it came roaring back and the tartan craze, came about in the 1800s, it was from the top down, not from the bottom up. Does that make sense? So that's kind
Sounds
of
like somebody I know said that once.
Exactly.
Very recently.
Exactly.
Somebody,
But yeah, so that's my theory on why it sort of became dress wear, and now it's starting to come back a little bit as daily wear and fun wear, but it's still, or fashionable, but it still always has that undercurrent of formal.
Yeah, I think it's
Agree or disagree?
I mostly agree. I think it's going to be, it comes down to economics and practicality. There are a lot of guys now who will take me to task and say, like, no, kilts are really practical and they're great. They're better for the male physiology and all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Greater movement, all that. But it's not necessarily so. And if you are a working man in the 18th, 19th, 20th century, you're going to wear the dungarees or the heavy canvas trousers or whatever you need to wear to get through a work day, something you can wash easily, something that doesn't require any special care, something that is cheap, readily available. And the more you get away from making clothes at home, the more this becomes the case. You're going to get what you can buy and use, and it's completely practical. And if you have a kilt, chances are you're only going to have one, and you don't want anything to happen to it. So you're going to save it for special occasions only. Maybe you wear it to go to church, at most. It's the people who are at the upper echelons of society or the middle class who have the privilege in most of history to indulge in this and not have to worry about it as much. If you are a gentleman, or if you are a middle class, well, still gentleman, then you can wear this because you basically have like the equivalent of an office job, or you have independent income, so you can wear what you want. It's not a problem. But that's not for the 150, 200, 250 years ago. That's not the majority of society. So it becomes a special occasion thing because you are not going to be able to get away with wearing it when you're going to go work down at the shipyard. I don't think there were a lot of guys who were building steamships, in Glasgow and the other places that. Wait, was Glasgow?
Yes.
Was
ships.
that a shipbuilding
Yep.
town? I thought so. They're not going to be wearing kilts when they're putting rivets into the side of a battleship. So I think that's basically where it comes from. And then now, because of modern technology and the modern conveniences of our society and everything, as well as the lack of conformity that we have now compared to then, because there probably was still an element of like, well, that's great, but why are you wearing that? It's not practical. What are you? You have some pushback from your peers, I think.
Yeah.
It was not something that everybody did because not everybody felt that they could, as opposed to now. I could be wrong about this, but I think most of the time when you see working men in kilts in the 19th century, it's a very specialized situation, like they're gillies on an estate.
Yeah. Now, you're 100% right in the cost. I don't disagree. Now, do you think there's other reasons why, because it was pushed back to the upper echelons, there may be a bit of a pushback on the no, that's what the fancy people wear, or it's the I don't want to be associated with that, or I don't want to be bothered having to talk to people, because when you wear a kilt out in public, even today, it's the is there an event? What are you doing? You look so nice. Like maybe if you're won't say antisocial, but if you just don't feel like dealing with people talking to you, maybe you're less likely to want to wear it.
I don't think you have quite that same parameter or that same dynamic there that you do here. I think that people, if they see you in a kilt, they assume either you're just wearing it by choice or you're going to a special occasion.
Right.
I know that the kilt makers over there have told us that there has been an increase in people wearing them casually and just for fun. But if you look at like the middle of the 20th century, I don't think you would have that same situation. You would still have special occasions, and I think the special occasions became less and less formal, hence the tartan army and guys wearing kilts for football matches and stuff. Like for when we did the Kilts Through Time video, one of the photos I found that was really hysterical was the tartan army football fans from like the mid 1970s, and they're in kilts and they're just they're just doing it for the laughs, Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, but it's a symbol of national pride over there for them more than it is family.
Yeah,
but there is also somewhat of a movement or somewhat of a desire, at least by a few, to make it more daily wear. Like look at Howie Nicholsby from
exactly
21st Century Kilts.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is kilts were daily wear for men at some point. They can be again. Let's do it. And he's making kilts out of contemporary fabrics, whether it's pinstripe, whether it's tweed, whether it's saran wrap, whatever, snakeskin, denim. He's making some fashiony type choices out of traditional, hand sewn style kilts, but making it fashion forward.
Yeah.
So there is a desire on some level from some people to do it and just have fun with it and be different from the regular clothes that's out there.
Yeah, I think the times are changing, but for the past 100 years, it was you got one kilt. You got it when you graduated from school, very often. Still do, a lot of time. Or you got it for a wedding. But it was a special garment. You had to go and get fitted for it and have it made and all that kind of stuff. So it was not necessarily cheap. And so you kept it for special occasions to keep it safe. Yeah, I think that's all I can say about that. Now, this is all educated guessing, speculation. I am open to other interpretations and information from our friends over in Scotland. Tell me what they know from family history and stuff. I'd be very interested now. But that's my suspicion.
But the bottom line is, if you want to wear it, whether you're in Scotland, whether you're in the U.S., Canada, Australia, it doesn't matter where you are. If you want to wear it and it means something to you and you enjoy it and you're wearing a pattern you like the look of, do it.
Yep.
Who cares? Who's going to stop you? No one. Maybe your boss, but screw him. Cheers.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Ian.
Yes.
Are people telling me I'm full of shit?
What's that?
Are people telling me I'm full of it
No.
in the comments? Okay.
No, I mean, certainly people have
Not yet.
shared some of their own experiences, but nobody called you out.
I'm just interested in somebody who knows, like, oh yeah, my grandfather wore a kilt all the time. I'd love to hear that kind of stuff. It's like, well, what did they do? What was their position in society?
One person did observe that they live in Scotland, and there's more daily casual kilt wearing than there was 30, 40 years ago, but
Yay.
probably comparable to here. It's not overwhelming. It's not, super common.
Still niche.
Somebody did point out that, he lives over in Scotland, and a lot of people can't afford to wear a kilt every day, which I respect.
Right.
I can only afford to wear a kilt every day because I get an employee discount.
Yeah, same. Yep.
So, yeah.
Next question.
So I've got a question here from Remington Maxwell over on YouTube.
Remington Maxwell. Dun, dun, dun.
That is my favorite viewer name.
Absolutely the best.
He was the other day. I really hope that's his real name, and if not, you need to change your name to Remington Maxwell. That is that freaking secret agent name if there ever was one.
And he's got to wear a tuxedo all the time. Or Prince Charlie all the time.
Yes.
So I hope you guys are ready to give him some dating advice.
Uh-oh.
Says, any new accessories
Came
that
to
I...
the
With a
wrong
name
place.
like Remington Maxwell, you should not need dating advice. You should just have my name is Remington Maxwell, and the ladies fawn over you. Period. That's my dating advice.
Okay, go ahead.
Any new accessories that I can use to push me over the top, peacocking, as it were, while dating, besides the basics? How can he kick his gear up to the
Where's
next
Sean
level?
Smith when we need him? Well, I don't know what you currently have, Remy. May I call you Remy? So it's a little hard to give you precise advice.
Yeah.
I think everyone's crazy about a well-dressed man, so it's not necessarily buying a certain thing as it would be making sure that it's all put together perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big one for color matching and playing around with color. I mean, like, I will go down to the point of having cufflinks that if I'm wearing a red, like when we marched in New York City, I made sure I have these antique, red glass cufflinks because the red was perfect with the red in the tartan, so it's those little details that your date will often pick up on. Thinking you have to have one thing, that's probably not how you're thinking, but if you think you have to have like one fancy thing, that's like the guy with the sports car, it's like, screw that. Go for smart and sharp, not over the top.
Yes, and to go further, you're exactly in line with what I was thinking. It's all about the details, not just the cufflinks, but personal details. If you have hair, some of us are more blessed than others. If you have hair, making sure it is styled neatly and in a I'm trying to think of like the way I don't know how the hell to describe it. Just
What are you talking about?
A good, a good classy hairstyle. Think like Don Draper, like a good nice hairstyle. If you have a beard, make sure it's a nicely trimmed beard or a fashionably trimmed beard. If you have a, like cufflinks, if you have a fancy, a particular, style tie tack on your tie, like whatever it is, make sure you're paying attention to the little tiny details and setting yourself apart in the details and showing that you care about little tiny things, so that it's I don't know. It's better received if you try to look too ubiquitous and I won't say sloppy, but if you're not paying attention to the little details, then you're gonna look less overall. Like making sure your eyebrows, you don't have like 27 different flyaways. Make sure your nose hairs aren't coming down to here. Make sure you're trimming your ear hairs. It's personal hygiene as
I don't know
well
how
as
old this person is.
I know, but I know I don't care. I'm giving it for everyone to heed this sage advice of mine. But paying attention to the details in the outfit, making sure that if you have a dress shirt, the buttons are in line with the front line of the kilt, making sure your belt buckle is dead center on the tartan or on your pants if you're wearing pants, making sure that the sporran is centered, making sure your flashes are just so. It's paying attention to the details, showing that you care about your appearance and your outfit goes to your care overall. If you look sloppy, people make certain assumptions about you based on your appearance.
See, all those Pelham's maxims that I wish I had memorized are now trying to come up in my memory, but I don't have the exact words. But yeah, it's like, don't dress to impress, dress to fascinate. Do not let perfection become your enemy. There's nothing so boring as absolute precision. But and again, to the details, I think there's one about like there can be absolute perfection or fascination found in the downturn of a cuff, or a simple thing. I think that if you're gonna have a way to fancy up an outfit, maybe make it something that's a good conversation piece, include as well as everything we just said. But basically, like a cool kilt pin, something that if your date notices, and you can talk about it or have a story about it. Pelham says that a gentleman should only wear jewelry that has some kind of sentimental value, because anything else is too ostentatious. So you could argue that a kilt pin that is unique and interesting and something it's a conversation piece, or the sporran is a conversation piece, or a little detail like a pocket watch or something like that. That's just kind of says, they're interesting, and if you learn about it or have an excuse to talk about it, it implies that you have depth. That you didn't just throw on a costume, that you actually care about this for a reason, that you're actually the person who thinks. That can be very powerful. So,
I would buttress and add to that by saying one piece. That is the statement.
Exactly.
Not all of the pieces.
Yep.
Do not wear a crazy kilt pin with an eyeball on it because it was your great-grandfather's, as well as cufflinks, as well as a tie tack, as well as a Glengarry with a crazy, hackle. Like, don't do all of the things.
Unless you're going to the Ren Fair.
When it comes to your kilt outfit, generally speaking, simpler is better. But a single statement piece could really speak to that. And I would also kind of say, the other Rocky maxim, art maxim, know the rules before you break them. So if you're going to break a particular rule, know that you are breaking the rule. Understand the general conventions of how a thing is done, and then say, okay, this is the general outfit that you're supposed to, this is how you're supposed to look, and this is the one thing I'm going to do differently. This is my signature piece, or this is my lack of signature piece, or whatever. But you can make it your own. You can make it your own style. But I would say don't go too try hard, over the top, everything as a statement all the time, but understand all of the rules and then selectively choose how you're going to style yourself to make yourself different.
Yeah. And there are simple, if you're looking to spend money, there's simple things you can do to upgrade what the average person has for their kilt outfit. Get a better quality or top quality pair of kilt hose that, just that like Lewis hose or something similar that have a really nice looking cuff. Take the time to find online a good color combination club tie. Now that means it's only 2 colors. It's not like the color bar on an angle with the bars, like you see like a businessman's tie, but a club tie that's very traditional. Tone it with a tartan ear kilt. It's going to look really like you took the time to do it. Little things like that. And if you don't own a shirt that requires cufflinks, maybe you do get cufflinks. Maybe you buy a Twit?
Yeah, Charles Tyrwhitt.
Shirt. Consider buying a shirt from the UK as opposed to the US, so you have something that's a little bit nicer.
I have another one.
I had one more.
Go ahead.
I am a big fan for this purpose of I think like hunting sporran, because it looks really fancy and really cool, but it's not over the top. So it's just that it's kind of a really nice sweet spot for a lot of dating situations. Okay, you can wear it during the day or the evening. A hunting sport, if you can afford one, is a really nice thing to have if you're looking to spend money.
Yeah. Here's my other spending money tip as well. I was against them for a long time.
Bucklebergs.
Still firmly against Bucklebergs.
Okay.
Don't wear
I'm
those.
sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
Garter ties. It's a little garter ties are like have little essentially bobbles or little like bits of thread that come out. They're actually knitted, but you tie them around your leg and they stick out there essentially instead of a set of flashes. Garter ties are something that can be different, slightly outside of the norm, lesser used than regular flashes or tartan flashes, and that can add a little bit of intrigue, a little bit of differentness, differentosity to your outfit. So garter ties might be mine.
Yeah. Conversely, I would never wear ghillie brogues on a date. I think they look too costuming.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
Costuming / formal.
Potentially. Yeah.
So not my jam. But yeah, I mean, where to begin? Really?
Yeah.
It is an art form.
Yeah.
Dressing is an art form. So
Yeah. And then finding the balance of the art. Yeah. Indeed.
do not wear Axe body spray.
Depends on the date, I suppose.
Wow.
And who you are as a person.
That's not the woman you want to date that likes
Fair enough.
Axe body spray.
Fair enough.
All right.
Here comes the hate mail.
Exactly.
Well, I met my husband and he was wearing Axe body spray. We've been married 20 years. So
Battle Axe body spray.
the Nordic choice.
Exactly.
I use Battle Axe body spray.
I think my favorite bit of advice that you guys shared is the really well coordinated colors that specifically Eric called out. I think
key.
some women are stunned, usually in a very positive way, about a guy who's really color coordinated and really thinking about that.
Because men in this society are not taught how to do that as a general rule.
And and speaking somewhat based on experience, sometimes I talk to couples in the store. And sometimes a woman will approach her and say, I'm so happy that, like, for the first time in his life, he's finally thinking about colors. He's never done that before, and he's looking so much more put together. And if that's an impression you can get on the first date instead of, 20 years in.
Yeah. I'll add one more that I do generally when I'm wearing a tweed jacket and or vest is a Tattersall shirt. The safe option for a dress shirt is a plain light blue or plain white dress shirt. To some degree, a plain color that tones with the kilt can be a little bit fancier. But a Tattersall shirt, meaning a shirt with the check, not check pattern, but stripes, window pane type of thing on it. Usually 2 colors, maybe 3 colors. If you can find a Tattersall shirt that tones well with the kilt that you are wearing, that can show a level of confidence in your outfit and a level of playfulness, a level of I'm not boring in the outfit that is difficult to show with a solid color shirt. So Tattersall shirts are kind of the secret weapon, I would say, in this scenario potentially.
Conversely, your date may think that you're an old fuddy-duddy fogey stuck in the past and very conservative.
Then you've ruled that person out.
Then you've picked the wrong date.
I'm just saying, to me, they look very conservative. I mean, sometimes they're really cool, but they're not my choice most of the time.
Yeah.
They're just a little.
You don't have my level
little
of
too
style,
fusty.
my friend.
I have a different style. Well, let's have you do the 1 Kilt 6 Outfits video next, and then we can compare them. That's another piece we have coming out soon. We finally took you guys seriously. We always take you
For the
seriously,
first
but we
time.
finally had the time to do this, and we actually started producing some more how-to videos on white, and one of them is a demo of how you can have a whole bunch of different styles with just owning 1 kilt. And that will be coming out probably next month or so, I hope. So.
Yep. Cool. All right. Was that you or was that Ian?
That was me.
Ian, and that was a
Ian.
long answer,
Yeah.
and then we're finally like, okay, I get it.
Yes. Since there was a power outage and we missed a few questions, we'll probably go till quarter after-ish. So 1 or 2 more from each of you.
Sure.
Go, go, go. Move now.
Craig Hamilton asked, should horsehair sporns become part of civilian wear again? They tend to be military or pipe band wear here. I don't know about in the States or further afield. So I take it Craig is back in the homelands somewhere.
Sure.
But,
Horsehair.
Horsehair. Should people wear horsehair sporns just as a matter of kilting up?
Sure. Back in Victorian and Edwardian times, like horsehair or goat hair, more often or as often as horsehair would be very, very common. A longer hair sporn. So let's say 16 to 18 inches long, stuck down below the bottom of the functional pouch section of a sporn. Should they become, daily wear again? There are a few barriers. I'm going to say, generally speaking, no, for two reasons. One, there is a straight up cost barrier. Daily wear to me is if I'm going to be wearing something daily or several times a week, several times a month, I'm not going to want something that is like super duper expensive that I may, somewhat destroy, depending on how hard on your outfit you are. A horsehair or a goat hair sporn will run you north of $400 for a good quality one. Can you get like imitation horsehair, like monofilament, like weed whacker cord, type thing? Sure, but even that isn't going to be super cheap.
Yeah.
And so reason one I would say is essentially cost. It's not a day sporn, $100 range for something to wear every single day. Reason two for specifically horsehair is that they're difficult to manage and wrangle. A lot of times they take much more care than a plain leather sporn. So there's something called show sheen, which is designed for show horses, for like detangling their tails or their manes and that kind of stuff. It's like a spray-on type thing. Show sheen, SHOWSHEEN, if you want to look it up. It's kind of a leave-in conditioner, roughly speaking, for horsehair, and that can be used, but it's kind of it will, like conditioner, it'll look a little greasy over time. Conversely, if you don't use something like that, horsehair, I know a lot of pipers that just kind of like throw their kit in a bag after a show, after a parade or whatever, and it ends up just kind of like poof, and horsehair just kind of goes everywhere, and it just kind of becomes a big puffy bally mess.
It tangles, yeah.
It
becomes
tangles,
a rat's nest.
yeah, exactly. It's a dog's dinner. It's a rat nest, exactly. So, if you're going to wear a horsehair sporn as something, daily wear kind of thing, what some people will do is have a bag or, one of your wife's old nylons and kind of put the horsehair sporn into a tube to kind of keep it compressed, allowing it to dry after, if there's any rain or any kind of moisture or humidity in it, allow it to dry and then put it inside of a tube to keep it nice and kind of compacted before the next event you want to wear it for. But overall, it is a much more care intensive item than a leather sporn, which you really don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
I agree. I would say it'd be great to have them as a comeback for semi-formal to formal, but I'm biased in favor of goat for that, not horsehair. I think goat sporns are awesome, but I'm the Victoriophile here. Okay, so I would wear Victorian clothing all the time if I could. I'm lying. I wouldn't. I'm too lazy. But I fantasize about it. Let's put it that way.
I pretend I would like to.
Yeah, I would.
I would
in
like
some
to.
ways, if I were a person of leisure. So I think it'd be great if goat hair sporns would make a bit more of a comeback, but they are not cheap. I've wanted one for ages, and I've just never been able to rationalize spending the money on it. So if I had one, I would definitely be saving it for special occasions because I'd be too worried about it. Do they look cool? Yeah. I mean, when I was a kid and I first saw, photos and lithographs and stuff of guys in kilts, it was always the Victorian stuff and the sporn, which I, at the time, had no idea what the hell I was looking at. I just knew it looked cool. So, to me, it is iconically the most iconic of sporns you can have. So, that's why it's still part of dress uniforms everywhere. So, it'd be awesome. But until somebody invents one that is easy care, I don't see it happening. So, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, maybe. What they need to do is have a kilt of a sporn with Velcro on it.
No.
So you just have a goat
No.
or horsehair piece.
No.
You just kind of lift up the front.
No. No.
And then
No.
you just have a removable
Nope.
horsehair.
Nope.
Why not? It's a
Because
great
it's going to
idea.
look like a dead animal hanging from your crotch.
That's good.
Because it's going to look like just a pelt.
If Velcro's right here, and then it's just like when you don't need it. Back me up on this. I think it's a great idea.
Sure.
And when you're not wearing it as a sporn, you can put it on BZZ top
Or Santa.
or Santa. Yeah.
Did you kill Santa?
Yeah. No, I think it's a neat idea, and who knows, maybe it'll become more popular. The closest thing out there right now is like some of those Welsh sporns where they have the lamb's wool,
Sprin, whatever it's called. Yeah.
and they have the lamb's wool tassels which hang down below the body of the sporn. I kind of find that interesting. I think it's a little odd, but I think it kind of works. So
Yeah.
there might be a compromise in a new design at some point where there's a bit more body to it, or a bit more length to some kind of a element like that.
Yeah, I also kind of in a weird way will draw the parallel to full mask sporns, where it's one of those things where a full mask sporn technically can be worn during the day or evening. It is a sporn for all occasions. Most people will reserve it for formal functions or for dressier occasions because they're not cheap.
Right.
But if you own one, you can wear it for a bunch of different things. That's kind of how I would view the goat hair sporn as well.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Cool. Hope that helps. Mr. Ian. Was that him? Was that you? Yeah.
Those
That
are
was me.
Yeah.
So from Matt Nisbet over on YouTube, he says, "Hey guys, love the show. I just got my first kilt from you guys and love it.
Oh, thank you.
How do I wash it? I'm going to a local Celtic festival this weekend, and I know it's going to get dirty."
Is it a PV kilt or a wool
He
kilt?
did not indicate.
That's important to know.
It is
Yes.
important to know. I figured we could
But you
kind
might
of
as well
maybe
give the
address
advice
both.
for both.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you are wearing, if it's one of our kilts, look on the tag on the inside. On the tag, which is generally, we put it in the front of the kilt, but on the back of the front apron, so it's between the layers so it doesn't make you itch, it will have the care instructions. If it is a polyviscose kilt, then it is a machine washable fabric. So, I would buckle it or Velcro it if it's a casual kilt. Throw it in the washing machine. Do not use fabric softener because fabric softener will strip the Teflon, the stain-resistant coating off the fabric. But once it is out of the wash, do not throw it in the wash or do not throw it in the dryer. Just lay it out. Open it all the way up. Lay it on the back of the sofa, foot of the bed, or one of the drying wood racks that you can, collapsible wood racks, things that you can put in the house, and lay it across there. Straighten out the pleats while it is still damp, so you will have less care, less maintenance when it does actually dry out. And if you do want to iron it, it's just more of a light touch than trying to redo the whole thing. But a PV kilt is a very, very easy care option. If it is a wool kilt, if you are concerned and you don't know what you're doing for wet washing, dry clean it. Just give it to a dry cleaner. Tell them, do not press it. Just clean it. When you take a kilt to a dry cleaner, if they don't know what they're doing, they will pleat it up the way that they think is best. They will press it, they will permanent press it, and they will screw it up. So, and on top of that, they will charge you more money because it has pleats in it. So just take it to a dry cleaner if it's a wool kilt and just say, "Hey, I just want this cleaned. Do not press it. Specify, I don't want it pressed. Just clean this." And A, it'll cost you a lot less money, and B, it will probably come back with the pleats still in it, so you don't really have a whole lot to worry about.
Yup.
Indeed.
That's the long and the short of it.
Yep, pretty much.
And remember, with either of these cases, if you have a spill or something while you're at the event, you can spot clean pretty quickly and avoid a lot of damage that way. Both materials will respond to a quick, spot clean with some cold water.
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to, when you have a wool kilt, you don't want to dry clean it too often because it will knock the stuffing out of it. It will become, it will be floppy and it'll just be knackered. Like the dry cleaning isn't actually dry. They use the chemicals to clean the kilt. So it's still being, immersed in a solution. So, and those chemicals kind of take all the lanolin out of it, and it feels different after the 20th dry cleaning than it did on the first. So you don't want to necessarily clean it every single time you wear it, but you do want to spot clean it. Yes. That's the other reason why I generally recommend, as much as some people are going to come at me, I generally recommend wearing undergarments with the kilt, because the more you protect the fabric from the inside and the outside, the less you will have to clean it, the longer it will last.
Cool. Yep. Have fun.
Cheers. Yeah, enjoy the festival. All right, we will do one more.
One more?
One more.
We're at that point. Okay.
One more.
Uno más.
Yes.
Blah, 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 blah. I already did one of Richard Whittington, so I'm not going to do that again. We're being all fashionista today. So Sorrel Brock asks us, what advice would you give for dressing up a weathered tartan kilt? Are there other things to be mindful of when matching color palettes with weathered tartans so the outfit doesn't look too one-toned? Because he's worried about looking drab or something.
Okay. Dressing up a weathered tartan can be done. Just because the kilt or tartan is weathered doesn't mean that it is casual or not to be worn for formal. When I got married, I wore the Scott Green weathered tartan because that was part of the colors of the wedding, party that my wife, picked out. Mm-hmm. So you can still get creative and colorful in it. I would, a weathered tartan, generally speaking, is, blue becomes gray and brown, green becomes brown in the tartan. So a lot of brown tweeds or gray tweeds will tone well with the outfit, but you are not just limited to that. If you have, let's say, if there's a red stripe in your tweed kilt, you can wear a red tweed, or you can wear a brown tweed, maybe with a window pane of some red stripes in the brown tweed. Yeah. You can still get creative with it. You can wear gray tweeds with window panes or without. You can wear a black Argyle or PC jacket and vest with a weathered tartan. Mm-hmm. You can get a little bit colorful and creative in the flash colors that you're wearing. So the way that I do it generally is making sure that my outfit is coordinated, but there are others who will wear, bright red hose, even if there's no red in the tartan, or they can wear a bright red tie or different colors in the accessories to kind of make it stand out and make it pop a little bit. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What would your thoughts be?
Yeah, pretty much the same.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Here's the outlier. I would say that they're harder to find, but you could actually have some fun with bronze or gold accessories with a weathered tartan sometimes. Whereas other colored palettes don't lend as well to that. It looks a little weird. But for some reason, weathered and some of the tweedier tartans, actually a gold accessory can be like a gold kilt pin or something, or bronze.
Chocolate
which
bronze,
my preference can look actually kind of cool. So that'd be a fun way to tinker around with it.
Yeah. And I would also say, another one just popped in. Depending on your level of dress, if it's more of a smart day wear kind of situation where you wanted to look for something with tweed, another thing you could play with, although some people may try to disparage you and call you conservative or old and stuffy, a tattersall shirt could perhaps be a good option to wear with a weathered tartan.
Yes. Yeah, I like it, Sonny. It's a good idea. That's an old Scottish expression.
Indeed. Yeah. I bite my thumb at you, Sarah.
Oh.
Yes. All right. Thank you, boys and girls. Thank you very much. All right, question of the day. We have no questions of the day in my brain because I didn't think about it ahead of time. Do you prefer... What? No, actually.
I have an idea.
You have an idea? Okay, fine. I was going to have one, but no, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yours is probably better.
No, I give it to you.
We can do both. Our tattersall shirts now.
Would you wear a tattersall? No, actually, that's actually not a bad one. We talked about it a couple times.
Oh, okay.
Would you wear a tattersall shirt with a kilt? Are you brave enough? Do you think they are too daring, or it's not just your style, or you're a scaredy cat? Or do you think they look dumb and too stuffy and conservative? Let me know in the comments. Would you ever wear a Tattersall shirt with a kilt? Indeed. Until next time, boys and girls, Slanjava.
Skål.